And now the B Plus Wrestling Podcast. Watch global. Support local. It's the B Plus Wrestling Podcast.
The move.
You might not be an A, but you are a B plus.
Check it out. Here we go. You wanna mess with us? 'Cause we're slinging on the ground, slinging on the ground. You wanna mess with us? 'Cause we're slinging on the ground, slinging on the ground.
All right, ladies, gents, and non-binary friends, welcome to another B Plus podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Friday. You know what that means. It's Aussie Grapps Day. It's our favorite day here at the B Plus. It's the day we sit down and take a look at what's happening this week in Australian professional wrestling. We also like to speak to an Aussie grappler or grappler adjacent person. This week, I'm talking to someone who a lot of you may not have heard of, toiling away down in the somewhat foreign land of Tasmania for Tasmanian Championship Wrestling is a young man, an up-and-coming talent by the name of Liam Lacey. I had a chance to talk to him this week, and you can hear that very soon. But let's first get into this week in Aussie Grapps news. Gonna keep it relatively light because I am running late because of life circumstances. It is what it is. So I'm gonna try to keep the news relatively short. The biggest news of the week, I would say, is a bunch of our Aussie grapplers competing in PWG's Battle of Los Angeles. Of course, Caveman Ugg, Mick Moretti, they took part in the tournament. Mick Moretti had a match with Joey Janela that I'm hearing is an absolute barnstormer. Caveman Ugg had a match with Brody King. And then on night 3, though, the big surprise, Paris Da Silva wound up in the big 10-man scramble tag match that they do on night 3 of Battle of Los Angeles. Of course, being PWG, none of us have seen it. All of this is coming from tweets that we have read. PWG are well behind the times, and they release their shows 3 months later on DVD schedule when no one cares anymore. So, obviously we'll be watching when they do come out to see our boys compete over there and see how they went for ourselves. But all reports say that it was a huge weekend for our Aussie grapplers in LA, and big eyes as well. There's always big eyes on PWG. So many bowler participants have been picked up for WWE, for NXT. Jonah Rock, of course, one of our G3 with Robbie Eagles and Adam Brooks, who competed in the Battle of Los Angeles last year, and it was a very short time after that he announced signing to NXT. So, maybe some of our guys are being seen. William Regal quite regularly attends these. We know for sure Jim Smallman, who works for WWE and is the mind, one of the minds behind Progress in the UK. He was in attendance. We know Tony Khan was in attendance on one of the days. So some very important eyes on some of our best wrestlers taking part in the Battle of Los Angeles. So it's a huge, huge thing for them. Meanwhile, looking at home, one of our biggest promotions, you have to call it one of our biggest because it's got worldwide exposure through Amazon Prime. Underworld Wrestling received a review courtesy of Dan Leonard in People magazine. That's right, People magazine, the off-the-rack B-grade porno mag. It's still awesome. It's a mainstream magazine. Truckers everywhere are going to be reading about Underworld Wrestling. This is fantastic. It's good to see any kind of mainstream coverage. So well done to Underworld Wrestling. A couple of other things I want to talk about before I get to the interview. EPW's Perth Royal Show situation is coming up this week. So starting tomorrow, as you're listening to this, if you're listening to this on the day of release, that is, as of tomorrow, the 28th of September, going through until the 5th of October. They are doing 3 shows a day at the EPW Perth Royal Show. We talked about Maddie Wahlberg is going over for this week. And just this week, we've got the announcement as well. Nick Golfus from right here in Adelaide and Vance Adams from over in Melbourne. They're also making the trip to join EPW for the Perth Royal Show. So you're doing 7 days of shows, 3 shows a week. That's 21 shows that these guys are taking part in. It is huge. And last year, I believe it was last year, Jet Ruka and Tyson Baxter were a part of this, and they raved about it, how great an experience it was. And when you're wrestling that many times, you get to learn so much. You're cycling through opponents, and it's going to be a really good experience for these guys. And I'm looking forward to seeing who goes through these. I mean, it's kind of like a wrestling camp. EPW do have their wrestling summer camp coming up. which if you're a wrestler, you need to be getting over to Perth to do this EPW summer camp with Davis Storm and Gavin McGavin, two of the best in our country, two of the best trainers in our country, pumping out amazing talent over at the EPW School of Pro Wrestling. And they're going to be doing a showcase as a part of that summer camp. But yeah, this is kind of like another camp, really. It's 7 days of wrestling for established wrestlers coming in. You can't buy that kind of experience. So it's pretty amazing, and I'm looking forward to seeing who goes through this, who becomes like a Perth Royal Show alumni. Because when you look at it with Tyson Baxter and Jet Ruka as interstate guys visiting, look at the success they've gone on to have this year. And Nick Golfus, I love Nick Golfus, man. I'm a big Nick Golfus fan. He has some of the stiffest kicks I've ever seen, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing about how he goes over in Perth for this week. Last thing I want to talk about, Kellyanne and Jessica Troy. They've been having a series of killer matches. I think it started in Wrestling Go. They've had 2 matches in Wrestling Go. One of them I have on my list for match of the year. They had a match up in AWA, up in Queensland. I'm sure they've had other ones that I'm forgetting about. FWA may have booked Kellyanne versus Jessica Troy as well. I'm not entirely sure. But they've got their rubber match coming up. It's been announced, a 2 out of 3 falls match for Wrestling Go, You Go Girls 2. I am so excited for this match. These guys, they just have it. They have that chemistry, you know. It's Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. It's, you know, I mean, not to pump it up too much, but the Rock and Austin, you know, they have a chemistry. When they get in there together, they put on magic, just absolute magic. And I'm really looking forward to seeing them do this 2 out of 3 falls match. So that's been announced. That's coming up for October 5th. That's Wrestling Go, You Go Girls 2. So if you're in Sydney on October 5th, you need to get to this Wrestling Go show, because that match, I assume it's going to be the main event, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. I'm looking forward to it a lot. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully that one goes out live. I know Wrestling Go have done a couple of live streams, but if not, it will end up on YouTube at some point, and I'm looking forward to it. You can go back and watch their previous matches with Wrestling Go on YouTube. You can watch their match with AWA on YouTube as well. They're going all around the country. They're both taking part in MCW 9, the Melbourne Invitational, the Women's Championship Tournament to crown the first ever MCW Women's Champion, and that's my pick for the final. Kellyanne and Jessica Troy. It's a magical match, and you got to think Melbourne City Wrestling have watched these matches and gone, yeah, well, we need to air our version of that match. So hopefully they get to the final, and we get to see that on the big stage of MCW, crowning the first women's champion. Kellyanne would be my pick down there in Melbourne, although Avery, you can't count out Avery, man. So I'm looking forward to that MCW 9 weekend, which is coming up. October is a huge month for us here in Aussie Wrestling, so I'm going to keep it short here, because next month I'm going to be talking a whole lot MCW 9. We got, of course, the Coliseum tournament, which I'm flying up to witness, and of course as well, October 5th, TCW Rogue, featuring our very own guest here this week, Liam Lacey. So let's listen to that interview, and then I'll hit you up after the break with what's happening this weekend near you.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey everyone, just want to take a second to tell you about one of our new sponsors, OUTBREAK Nutrition. OUTBREAK Nutrition are creating supplements for survival, sharper minds, quicker reflexes, all the energy you need to take your performance to the next level, whether that be on the field, in the gym, on the gaming field. That's right, they have specifically designed gaming supplements as well to help you focus on those late night sessions. They even sell coffee, you guys, at OUTBREAK Nutrition. You can get coffee pods, you can get coffee beans, you can get supplements for the bedroom as well if you want to enhance your performance there. These are performance enhancing supplements for every aspect of your life, specifically designed by gamers, for gamers, to stay fit and healthy in the gym, to stay sharp and focused on the game, and to dominate in all areas of life. So check out OUTBREAKNutrition.com, and for being a listener of our podcast, they will give you 10% off your order when you enter the code B+. That is BPLUS at checkout. So make sure, if you want to stay on top of your game, if you want to take your performance to the next level, OUTBREAKNutrition.com, enter the code B+ at checkout. All right, my guest at this time, joining me by the magic of the internet, with my brand new microphone that we're doing this with, because I just had some tech issues. So thank you so much for waiting around for me, man. Liam Lacey, how you doing?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, well, look, I've been better. We had some tech issues.
Yeah.
My microphone completely died, and I had to go to the shops and get a new one. So you've been hanging around waiting for me for like an hour. I really apologize for that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I've been looking forward to doing this.
Yeah, because you're out in the like most remote areas of Tasmania, right? And so you told me you've gone for a drive somewhere else so you have more reception, and then
Yeah.
in my head, as I'm at the shops checking out, getting this new microphone and stuff, I'm just like, he's just sitting somewhere that has better reception, just chilling, just waiting. I'm feeling awful.
I live out in Kimberley, and like nobody in Tasmania knows where that is, so that tells you what it's like there.
Yeah, wow. And so, obviously, Tasmanian Championship Wrestling, we're going to talk about your journey. We're going to talk about wrestling in Tasmania in general. But I noticed when I sort of looked through your history that you didn't start in Tasmania.
Yeah, when it comes to wrestling, I started in Tasmania, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I saw some stuff on Cage Match that had you in Sydney for a while.
Yeah, funnily enough, I found that not too long ago myself, and it turns out there was a completely different person that used the same name years ago.
Oh, there you go. So I went and did my research, and I'm like, well, that part of the research doesn't matter now, because so you started in Tasmania, but there was another Liam Lacey before you in AWF. Wow, what a coincidence.
Yeah, no, it was another Omega, actually. That was my first wrestling name.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's sort of doubled up on the Cage Match. Well, there you go. Half my research is trash then. But let's talk about it. What got you into? I like to, when I get people on for the first time, I like to ask, what attracted you to wrestling? How long have you been a wrestling fan, and what's your like first memory of getting into wrestling?
My earliest memory of wrestling was it's a bit of a funny story, but when I was young, I lied to my dad about something. I can't necessarily remember. So he told me about the story of the boy who cried wolf.
Right.
But he did it in his own sort of imaginative way, and it kind of stuck with me a bit, so I couldn't sleep.
So what was his version?
Well, instead of the sheep, the boy gets eaten by the wolf, and so I was just lying in bed thinking there was a wolf out my door.
Okay. And so this ties into wrestling because...
Well, my mum told me to maybe I feel a bit better if I went and apologise to my dad, so I did. And he said he asked if I wanted to watch wrestling with him, and that was back in 2003. It was the episode of Raw where Kane has gone around beating everyone up, and Stone Cold's trying to get control of it.
Right, so like Sheriff Stone Cold.
Yeah. No, it was when he was general manager along with Eric Bischoff, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, when he rode out on the quad, right? He used to ride out on the quad at the end of Raw and do the beers and stuff, yeah. That's so that was your first exposure, was after your dad scaring you half to death.
Yeah. But it worked out in the end because it got me into wrestling, and I didn't watch it all that much from then on, but what got me to watch it week in and week out was... WrestleMania 20.
Right.
Yeah, I was actually at primary school. I was signed up for karate, and the first lesson there, I wasn't paying attention to anything going on because I just wanted to get home to watch WrestleMania.
But the karate's going to help you with wrestling. Or did you not know at that point that you were gonna go down the combat sports path?
No, not necessarily. I was about 8 at the time.
Yeah. I got into karate when I was 5 because of Power Rangers.
No, yeah, that was one of my reasons as well.
Yeah. And then when I was like, why aren't we kicking putties in the head? I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the kind of thing I had in mind.
But yeah, so when did you decide, when did you make that call? Like, I'm going to go and learn how to throw myself at the ground for a living.
Well, like I said, like WrestleMania 20 was what made me watch it week in, week out, and like my fascination of it just built up like every single week. And ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a wrestler. But it was when I lived in Melbourne back when I was young. I moved to Tasmania when I was about 11, and it was 2013. I had a mate here who just looked up wrestling in Tasmania for like a joke, and he actually found the TCW training.
Right.
So he rushed over to my place. He said, "Oh yeah, look, there's wrestling training. We got to try and organise to get up there." And I went up there. I think it was like around the end of August in 2013. I was 17, and I've been going like just about every single week ever since.
So 2013, you start training, and you're 17. And so TCW would have been in its infancy then, yeah? Because TCW is still a relatively young promotion, all things considered.
Yeah, they hadn't had their first show yet. They were still just training people.
Right. So similar to what happened in Darwin, how they started training, and they opened their training school for Pro Wrestling Darwin, and they're like, we're not going to run shows like just bringing people in. We're going to build up a crop here.
Yeah.
Right. And so were you one of the first crop in TCW, one of the first class that sort of graduated to show level?
Sort of. The very first TCW show, Annihilation, I didn't actually wrestle on. I refereed it.
Right.
So I was a part of the first ever TCW match, but as a referee, actually.
Right. Which is a good place to start for a young boy. That's.
Yeah, it was. I had social anxiety around that time, so it was a good way to ease into it, and kind of get over it, to work into being an actual wrestler in front of all the people.
Yeah, that's a common theme that comes up a lot. Is I don't know what it is. Something about wrestling that just seems to draw in people with social anxiety. I guess because a lot of people we talk to talk about the same thing, and wrestling sort of helping them overcome that. Is that the case with you? Wrestling's been a good outlet to overcome those kind of anxieties?
Yeah, because my main thing with social anxiety was like how people would judge me mainly, and I guess I felt safer with the wrestling crowd because we all like the same thing. Why would we judge each other for liking the same thing, sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, news for you. People still with it. There's still a lot of judgment, man. Like even like just online. I don't know. Maybe I spend too much time on like Twitter and stuff like that. Maybe that's why this is going to tie into something we're going to talk about later. But there's still some judgment out there, even though we like the same thing. I don't know. There's something wrestling fans like to tear each other down online.
Yeah, I guess I didn't have a fully understanding of it back then.
Yeah. But it's good that it helped you sort of get past that and gain more confidence. And ultimately,
yeah, definitely.
When was your first show as a wrestler?
My very first match was May 10th, 2014, and I still wasn't quite ready, and I knew that. But I guess like we couldn't really rely too much on the mainlanders coming because it's Tasmanian Championship Wrestling. But I only had a 2.5 minute match with someone else who was just debuting that night. His name's Zach Archer.
Yep.
And it was completely set up by my trainer. He set up the whole match for us, just kind of another way to kind of ease into it before we had actual matches. And I'm glad it worked that way because, again, I was able to ease into it and get more comfortable with it before I dived right in.
Right, so it was kind of laid out for you spot by spot, and you guys just had to memorize it, go in there and perform it?
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned your trainer. Who is the trainer there at TCW, and who was your trainer at that time? Same person? Still?
At that time, that was Lee Barber.
Right.
But since then, sometime last year, he sold it to two people who were at our training, Daniel Hawes and Bo Sayer.
Right. And so has there been a big change since the sale? Because I mean, I don't know if it's just a matter of social media at the moment and the Australian wrestling boom, but we're hearing more up here in the mainland. We're hearing more about Tasmanian Championship Wrestling. So it seems like they're doing something right since that sale.
Yeah, since Lee sold it over, there seems to be a bit more of a different feel to it. And we've changed up the atmosphere and the whole setup of it all. We've got lighting and everything now. And, yeah, it's just a real different feeling to it now. And, like you said, apparently it's getting more word of mouth out there.
Yeah. Which is good. I mean, I've heard great things about yourself. That's why I reached out to get you on the show, because obviously big match coming up, which we'll get to. But I want to talk about your road to the TCW title, because you talked about your first match there in late 2014, right? And then yeah. So and then by 4 years later, it's quite a road. You're the TCW champion.
Yeah. So when I started as Omega. I wore a mask, and how that came into play was I ordered knee and elbow pads in for training, and they were gold.
Yeah.
So everyone started joking around like, "Oh, you need to wear gold tights now," when like even some were saying you need to have a sort of gold dust gimmick or something like that. But like I've always wanted to wrestle as the character that I have now, but I knew it was something that needed to be worked into, something to evolve into. So I came up with the Omega gimmick first to ease into that. And so that's what I did. And mainly the gimmick of it was that I just like to go out there, put on the best match possible, and entertain the crowd as much as I could. But I didn't exactly win all that much. Like I got wins here and there, but when it like really mattered most, I didn't win the big matches, and I never got the title match. And that's what I thought I could use to eventually snap, turn heel, and bring out this character that I've wanted since the beginning.
Right. And so when you switched from Omega to Liam Lacey, was that a thing that was done in front of the crowd? So you actually unmasked yourself? Yeah,
I just had a series of matches with someone named Jackson Parker, and we just had a 2 out of 3 falls match with him coming out on top, and I do the whole like shake his hand, raise his hand sort of thing, and then I turn, I lay him out, and then I pull off the mask. And the funny thing is, people were cheering me. So I thought, nah, this is going good. I need to do something. So I spat on Jackson Parker, and that got them to turn on me pretty quickly.
Right. So you guys were both kind of fan favorites, and so they kept cheering you even though you'd just beaten him up after the match. Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, we
have a bit of a different crowd in Tasmania.
Yeah, a very family friendly show, right?
Yeah. Like we do our best, but yeah, it's a family friendly show.
Right. Because I've seen in clips and stuff, I've seen there are kids at the show and whatnot. It seems like a family night out kind of thing.
Yeah, kids running around all over the place, getting into it. Yeah, it's definitely family oriented show.
Yeah, it's similar to Adelaide Championship Wrestling here. Lots of families going out to ACW, the Adelaide Championship Wrestling shows, and the kids, man, they can be very vocal.
Yeah, the kids here can be a bit too into it sometimes. Like, am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We dropped the PG thing a long time ago.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering because like when I won the title, like I was the top heel at the point, so all the kids would get into it. I'd come out with a belt, and they're like, "You fucking suck cock" and all this, and I'm like, "Jesus, I'm supposed to be the heel here." Kid.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. They get a bit too into it sometimes.
The kids are intense in Tasmania.
Yeah.
Well, everyone needs an outlet. Going out to the wrestling, I mean, it's not the worst place. I don't know, but it's one of those things. So you've unmasked. That was one of my things. Like I was always like when I trained, my whole idea was I'm gonna work under a mask for the first couple of years of my career. Now this didn't end up happening. My partner had children, and so I stopped training because I was like, I don't want to die. But that's me. But I was like, the whole idea for me was work under a mask for the first few years so that no one knows it's you, and then later you switch to your real gimmick that you want to use, and then all the mistakes that you made as a rookie are no longer tied to your name. Was that the kind of thinking with Omega, or I mean, obviously not because you switched very publicly.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I had in mind. Like another reason I had the mask on, I wasn't exactly good with the facial features and the facial expressions and all that.
Right.
Like I was still getting the hang of my selling when I started. I managed to get better throughout the years, but I think it was once I knew that I was really ready that I took off the mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so...
And then I managed to have more of a connection with the crowd once I took the mask off, and I realized I'm a much better heel than I am a face.
Yeah. Do you find it's easier to be a heel anyway? Because like anger is kind of... I mean, if you want to be an angry heel anyway, like anger is pretty easy to get across in the face, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of my gimmick. I'm just always angry, always screaming at the crowd, and they eat it up. It works, so can't complain.
Yeah, well, I saw the recent promo that you did, after the match with Zach Archer, and there was a lot more than just anger in there. Like, it was a brilliant promo. There was disappointment. There was desperation almost even in that promo, which I really enjoyed.
That's what I was going for, because I've been doing the same thing for just about 2 years now. Like the promos, like they all in the end were kind of the same. And I thought after all this stuff I just did with Zach Archer, I needed to change it up a little bit. And I thought the best way to do that was with my next promo to cut it differently,
right?
But not seem too different from what my character really is. So kind of have something to evolve with into the character, but also it still is Liam Lacey. You know what I mean? Yeah,
just adding layers. Like he's still, feeling overlooked and pissed off and all that sort of stuff. But there's more layers to it now, where he's like I lost 3 of these matches in a row. Some of this might be on me. Like there's a little bit more introspection to the character.
Yeah, that's what I was really going for.
Yeah, well, it came across. Like, I picked up on it as I was watching, and I was like, oh, this promo, man, I'm into this a lot. Let's talk about that program with Zach Archer. You mentioned it. He was your first match way back when.
Yeah.
And now you guys have a 3-match series over the TCW title where you lose all 3 matches.
Yeah, because our first one was back earlier this year at Annihilation, which is pretty much our WrestleMania.
Yeah, like the anniversary show. Yeah.
So I always thought, like, I could easily use what happened with me and Archer in our very first match to really build this story with it. And that's what I wanted to do with the promo, building that up. And I really wanted to sell a story for this match to really get people keen to watch it, you know. And I managed to have that match with Archer at Annihilation 6, which is where I lost the title. Which led to our rematch at the Jaded show in what month was it again? July, I think it was, or
August, I think. I know I lose track because the shows are a little sporadic down there because you guys don't have a full schedule. Yeah,
sometimes a month or a bit about, but I think it was back in June or May, maybe actually. I think it was May actually. Yeah.
Right.
So,
the August match was the ladder match, wasn't it?
Yeah, the ladder match was August. Our second match, I really wanted it to be different from the Annihilation one. I don't want it to just be, it's the exact same match just to get us to the ladder match. I wanted each match to be stand out individually, if you know what I mean.
Their own unique chapters.
Yeah. So I didn't want them just like, it's the same match with just a couple of different spots. I really wanted to go for a different story with it, and I think I managed to pull that off pretty well. And I knew that with the ladder match, we could easily have that stand out from the other 2.
Yeah. Yeah, and so then you had a brutal ladder match that you came out injured from that, or is that just part of the story?
Well, yes and no. Like, actually, 3 weeks before the match, I was in a car crash.
Oh, wow.
And, I was in a car crash, and I got fractured ribs. So that's why I had my ribs taped for the match. But by the time I got to the match, it was they managed to heal up pretty good. The tape was just a precaution, sort of, and it added to the match. The crowd was like, oh, why has he got all taped up? But when I when I took off all the foam and exposed the boards on the ring, and I bumped on them, I hit my elbows really hard. It's definitely the worst bump I ever took. And the next morning, my elbows were just swollen and like different colors, like purple, blue, yellow, just all over. And I probably couldn't take a back bump for a few weeks. Like just recently I could start bumping without it hurting too much.
Right. And so you went into a ladder match and taking crazy ladder bumps with fractured ribs.
Yeah. So I was being real careful about how I would take the spots. Like there was a spot where I went off the top of the top rope to the outside onto a bridge ladder, and I thought, okay, I got to make sure I don't hit my my ribs on this. So I kind of just tucked and rolled off my shoulder, kind of.
Yeah.
It didn't end up really hurting all that bad, and I guess the adrenaline got me through the match more than I thought it would.
That's crazy. And like they say, like you can't learn how to fall off a 20-foot ladder and onto steel and all that sort of stuff. You can't learn that.
Yeah,
So it's just sort of an intuitive thing. Like, well, I want to avoid landing on this part of my body, so I'm going to try this. And it worked out for you.
Yeah, like I only managed to knock my ribs off like one German that I took, but that was about it. Like I managed to protect my ribs pretty well, and now they healed up fine.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. So yourself and Zach Archer obviously had an amazing program. He's now the champion, and you've lost 3 matches clean to him, so you don't really have a claim to go back. But so you guys are kind of the pride and joy of the TCW Academy, from what I gather. You're the 2 names that I hear the most, the 2 names that I see sort of as the marquee names coming out of there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, yeah. Like, I mean, there's obviously some other names that I'm seeing. I mean, Andy Rhodes is a big one, but like.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about guys that have come from Tasmania, trained in Tasmania, because Zach Archer's another Tasmanian native, right?
Yeah, like he's easily like one of our most over faces that we've had. He's easily been amongst the top popular ones, yeah.
Yeah. I see Zeke Andino's name a lot as well, but he's actually from Queensland, isn't he?
Yeah, he's come down to help out for a few shows as well, and that's what Andy has done. Andy Rhodes was actually my first match as Liam Lacey.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Is Andy still doing the VB thing?
I can't remember the last time he did it, but it was a few shows ago that he brought it down to Tassie.
Because I remember seeing him at an AWF show way back when. I can't even remember. This would have been 6 years ago probably, and he was rocking the VB thing, and he got so over as a heel with that crowd, just instantly over as a heel with a New South Wales crowd, just by coming out wearing a VB tights. It was great.
I think that's one of the things that got him over as a face in Tassie.
So Tasmania, that you guys are more closely aligned with Victoria, are you? Because obviously there's a huge rivalry, New South Wales and Victoria, Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you guys don't have that animosity towards Victorians?
Not to my knowledge, at least. Like, they kind of just they'll our crowd will kind of prefer the Tasmanian guys over the mainlanders, unless it's like, you know, someone like me against a mainlander, because everyone just hates me.
Right. You're doing your job good.
Yeah. So with Andy, I think he's just so good at being able to work the crowd. Like, he was a heel before he worked with me. Like, he was heel every show he was at ours, and then the one match he had with me, he was just face. All of a sudden, he was able to just get the crowd on his side, like, just like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, that's goals, right? To be able to switch and just get the crowd on side just through your actions, like telling a story in one specific match, being able to win a crowd over like that.
Yeah.
Now, so you've touched on it. So obviously you guys are quite disconnected from the mainland. What's it like wrestling in Tasmania and being so disconnected and seeing, because obviously things are really popping off in Australian wrestling, you know, big things happening in PWA, MCW, Queensland are starting to get their shit together, EPW's chugging along, Adelaide has three fantastic promotions. So, you know, what's it like seeing all this happen, but being so disconnected from it and so remote?
Well, I think it's pretty cool that Australia is starting to get actually noticed now, and yeah, I was really hoping that Tasmania would be a part of that. But we last year, me, Eddie Jones, and Dylan Daniels got asked to go to Queensland to do the first New Valhalla show.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my very first match outside of TCW, and it was a good experience to get to go interstate and wrestle in front of a completely different crowd. Like, I went there thinking, oh, I wonder how big this crowd's going to be, but it was because I thought our crowds might be a bit small, but like the smallest amount of crowd that we've had, I think, is something like 120. When the New Valhalla show, I think I heard something had around 60 people or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was
But
the first New Valhalla show, though?
Yeah, the very first New Valhalla show, yeah.
Yeah. I'd say, I mean, 60 is not a great success for a first show, but it's not too bad. But so you guys are pulling in 120, 130 people usually, or is it grown? Because it's grown over the last year, right?
The last couple shows we've had over 200 actually.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. That's fantastic to hear because you want to appeal to the local market first and foremost. And so when you say, you hope Tasmania will be included, as long as you guys keep increasing the crowds like that, it will be included because Australian wrestling is booming all over the place. And like I said, Tasmania has come up more often than it used to. So you're on the right path.
Yeah, that's really good to hear too because we only have a show like every 2 months, I think. So it's probably not as constant as every other show up in the mainland and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that we're getting our name out there, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with, like, there are a lot of interstaters coming down. Like, Richie Taylor, obviously, was the most recent one. And they're going down, and it's not just they're coming to the shows, right? They're running seminars for you guys as well.
Yeah, Andy Rhodes has done a couple of seminars for us. Richie Taylor did one. Just the last one. Even Australian Wolf and the Cremator have come down and done a seminar for us as well.
Yeah, so Australian wrestling legends, current top guys. Richie Taylor's one of the top guys. Damian Slater, obviously, coming down. We'll talk about that, and he's going to be running a seminar for you guys as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, really looking forward to doing that one. Yes.
Yeah. So how is it, like, with interstaters coming? Obviously, it brings eyes from the mainland, and it's bringing new knowledge. I mean, is it much different from your regular training when you get to learn from one of these guys from the mainland?
Yeah, I've noticed that it's done pretty different to what we've done. Like when Richie Taylor was showing us a couple of things at the last one, I remember thinking, like, this is like totally different to what we learned. But it's good to switch it up and have different ways of doing things. Yeah.
Well, there's like regional, like really slight regional variants. Like, because I trained in New South Wales 5-6 years ago, and I went back to training here at ACW down here, and the way they front bump is completely different.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like just taking a front bump. Also, calling things like some people call. Like in some places, apparently doing a flip bump is called taking a front bump. So when I say front bump, I mean like, landing on your face, right?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, but some people apparently refer to a front bump as a flip bump. I don't know, man. It's weird, like weird little regional things. But like I learned how to front bump completely differently in New South Wales, and my instinct was to do that. And Kyle Mundy, Joe Mundy, was like, yeah, just do it the way you learnt. The way you learnt is safe. It's fine as well. That's great. It's going to be too much to reprogram your brain at this point. Like, just do it the way you learnt. But it's just a regional thing. And I'm like, that surprised the hell out of me. I thought there was only kind of one way to do these things.
Yeah, so did I. Like, I didn't expect there to be too many different ways. Like, I knew some people did it differently, but I didn't think it'd be totally different, that you'd have to, like, relearn some of the things,
Yeah, because, like, muscle memory kicks in.
Yeah.
When you've done enough of them, it's like, this is like, how I do it.
Like, you're already fighting your instincts enough when you first learn how to bump.
Yeah.
So getting that in your head and then having to do it a completely different way with someone else, like, yeah, it's another thing.
That's why when I hear about people who have started training already and then they go over and they train with like Lance Storm or Seth Rollins or these sorts of things, because they start from scratch. Like, they don't care if you've trained before or not. They take it all the way back and they're like, we're going to teach you how to roll. We're going to teach you how to bump. And I'm like, man, it must be crazy learning from, like, obviously you're learning from the best, but like stripping it all the way back and having to relearn. That's terrifying to me.
Oh, you got to imagine that you'll get the hang of it a bit quicker the next time around, though.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose you would.
Yeah.
Is that something that's on your radar, heading overseas to train, or even just heading to the mainland, spending a week at like a PWA academy, or EPW have their big camp coming up, their summer camp for wrestlers in January?
Yeah.
Are these things that are on your bucket list down there as a person who is quite isolated, getting up to the mainland to train?
Yeah, I'd definitely like to get up to the mainland and do some more up there, whether it's like some training or some actual matches, like get a bit more of experience under my belt.
Yeah, I've noticed the ACW guys go down there a lot. I think that it's time that they bring some of you guys up to us so we can see you in our local environment.
Yeah, it would be good to get some more of us out there as well, because as far as I know, I'm pretty sure it was just me, Eddie Jones, and Dylan Daniels that has gone out of TCW and done some stuff outside of Tassie.
Yeah. Where can bookers contact you if they want to get in touch and get you, fly you out and put you on a show?
Yeah, I suppose like just through my social media, which you have said I probably need to pick up on myself.
Yeah, this is why I asked this question. I couldn't find you. I've heard your name
really
all over the place, and I'm like, okay, well, like the main place I tend to look is like Twitter or Instagram, and I couldn't find you.
It's funny because TCW has actually been tagging my actual profile lately in posts that have me in it. So whenever the TCW puts up something in it and it's about me, my actual profile is tagged on there.
Yeah, see, Facebook's not the best way. Like, for, I don't know, to me, and I've noticed this with you Tassie lads. There's no social media presence for you. You don't have an Instagram. You don't have a Twitter. Someone needs to teach you guys how to do social media. And I know. Yeah. Shout out to Charlie, who got us in touch, because she is on social media. She's doing it the right way. And so I reached out to her, and she put me in touch with you so that I can get you on the show. Because yours is the name I hear coming out of Tasmania the most. Is like, oh, look out for this kid,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but then I can't look out for you because you're not online.
Yeah, I don't go much on social media. Like, I've only got Facebook and Twitter that I never use. Like, I used years ago, like just to go and see what wrestlers talk about,
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it's a bit of a necessity these days to have to go on to use social media to advertise what you're doing and stuff.
It's lately, a necessary evil.
And page.
For bookers as well, right? Like getting bookings. Like that was something that when I talked to Richie Taylor was like, oh, I didn't want to do social media, but Robbie told me you got to get on Twitter. Like that's how you get like attention from PWG and all these sorts of places. It's like you got to get on Twitter.
Yeah.
And then when I was talking to him, I was like, you got to get on Instagram, man. And now he's on both, and he's like, he posts some of the funniest stories on Instagram, like Eman the kid, who's trying to teach him how to use Instagram, and it was the highlight of my week for that week that he was hanging out with Eman, trying to learn. It's a necessary evil at this point because like fans, promoters, everyone's on there,
Yeah, like TCW's picked it up lately with their Facebook, and as far as I know, they have a Twitter, but like they don't have many like followers or anything on there. I'm not sure, and I'm not sure about Instagram or anything else because I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not a huge fan of social media myself. I don't like it, but it's one of those things like you got to be on there to do the things that we do to promote yourself. Yeah. It's a necessary evil. So I hope to see you on Instagram soon when you get those promo pics edited. I want to see you on Instagram and you post your story like just gym photos and ask me questions and all that sort of stuff, and it drives engagement as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you've got a big match coming up on October 5th at TCW Rogue. Damian Slater, the world beater, right? A competitor from the WWE Cruiserweight Classic, a game show superstar with this. I can't remember the name of it. It's not in my notes here. I should have had it, but he's going on some game show again. He's coming down to Tasmania. He's running a seminar like we touched on. But you're going to face off against him one-on-one. What does that mean to you, being given, the world beater as an opponent?
I think it's pretty cool that I'm actually going to be able to go up against someone that has quite a big name for themselves, especially that someone that WWE got onto the Cruiserweight Classic, which is honestly like one of my favorite things in like all of wrestling. Like, I love that tournament. And I just watched his match that he had with TJP, and I really appreciated the style that he did. I'm looking forward to the kind of match that we can pull off.
Yeah. I mean, look, Damian Slater is one of the best grapplers this country has ever produced, if not the best. Like, there's a solid claim that he's the best technical wrestler in this country. How do you prepare for that?
I've heard a lot about that. Yeah, I've been thinking of a couple things to do, but I really like story oriented lately.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to go out there and like do some technical matches and stuff, but I've really been doing a lot of like story based stuff, like especially with what I was doing with Archer.
Right. And at the moment, I mean, you're coming off those 3 losses, and this is kind of a redemption for you, right? Like, now you're going to face one of the toughest names in Australian wrestling. You have something to prove.
Yeah, that's essentially the story of this match here. Like, I got a chance to really build my stuff back up with one of the biggest names out there, and essentially, I really can't stuff this one up. Yeah. Yeah,
and so if it goes well, right? If you manage to pick up you get a gimmick, like what was his name? Far out, I've lost his name. But the import killer, right, over in Ireland. Oh man. Oh. Jordan Devlin was the import killer for a while, right? And like when they would bring in internationals, he'd be the guy that beat him. You can bring in mainland. You can be the mainland mauler.
Oh yeah, that's not bad,
right? You take out the Manies when they come down to try to make a name off you guys there in Tasmania.
Yeah, so that's not a bad idea. You've already beaten a few mainlanders that have come down as well. Like, I've worked with Andy Rose. I've worked with Sketch.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not a bad idea.
That's a new gimmick for you, man. The Manie Mauler. I just throw me a free T-shirt when it happens. No, but if it goes well for you, what's next? Is it eyes on Zach Archer? Eyes on reclaiming the TCW title? What's next for Liam Lacey?
Well, I was in the TCW title picture for like well over a year there. So I think it's good to get some other people into the title picture for a bit and try and get some more eyes on what's not on the main event scene, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So to keep it fresh.
Try and get more, spread out the interest on the show a bit.
Right. And hopefully we'll get to see you head into state as well.
Yeah. I'd really like to get more interstate matches going, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, look, I appreciate you coming on the show, man, and taking the time. Again, I'm really sorry that the whole thing was delayed by my tech issues, but we got it done.
That's fine.
It's great. And where can people find you online? Just so people can, if people decide to look, is it just mostly the TCW Facebook page they should pay attention to, or where can they get their dose of Liam Lacey?
The TCW Facebook page is probably the way to look into it with me, because with my profile, I'm not one of those ones that posts everything I do day in and day out. Like, I kind of just have a profile that I use to keep in touch with people, basically.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those guys that uses social media all that much. And, pretty much the way to see what's happening with me is just the TCW Facebook page, yeah.
All right. So I'll put a link in the show notes for people who want to find the TCW Facebook page. And, of course, the upcoming show, October 5th. Where does that one take place?
In Launceston at the Eltham Sports Centre.
Awesome. And you got Damian Slater. Best of luck with the match, man. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
So there you have it, Liam Lacey from Tasmanian Championship Wrestling. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Pick up your social media game. Not just you, Liam, but everyone in Tasmania. I'm excluding you, Charlie Rose, because you are doing a fantastic job. I want everyone in Tasmanian Championship Wrestling to pick up their social media game. Get your Instagrams, get your Twitters, and get your shit out there. We're seeing it. We're seeing Riot City Wrestling here in Adelaide. We're seeing them improve their social media game, and it's doing them wonders. Chris Basso was on the turnbuckle this week. You can have a listen to Chris Basso on the turnbuckle. Davis Storm was on the turnbuckle. Mark Henry was on the turnbuckle. Mark Henry was also on the top rope and on Wide World of Wrestling. There's a lot of podcasts to listen to. Make sure you go and check them all out. If you like your Aussie Grappler interviews and your Aussie Grappler adjacent and your Mark Henry's, I guess he's kind of Aussie adjacent because they're coming to Australia. WWE's coming to Australia. That's why Mark Henry's doing the rounds, promoting the show. I didn't get a call, but hey, I'm the Aussie Grapps guy. Anyway, looking forward to this weekend. Not a huge one again. Like I said, it's grand finals month this month. It's kind of quiet. All eyes are looking towards October at the moment, but this weekend you can check these shows out. Go to the Facebook pages for the respective companies if you want more details. On Friday night in Queensland, AWA present Grindhouse, Beers and Bruises at the Zoo. AWA are doing wonderful things up there in Queensland, so definitely check them out if you're in the area. On Saturday night in Newcastle, you have two shows to choose from. You have Newey Pro at the Hoos Party, Boats and Hoos, to play on boats and hose, live on OVO Play as well. So if you can't actually get to the show, if you're not in Newcastle, if you're not in New South Wales, if you can't make the drive, you can watch that live on OVO Play, from the Hoos. Also this weekend, Suplex are running Chapter 14 and Homegrown 2, both from the East Cessnock Bowling Club in that area as well. That's on Saturday and Sunday, respectively. In Melbourne, PCW Slam Next Gen, that takes place on Friday night at the Southeastern Entertainment Centre. And of course, in Perth for the entire week, 3 shows a day. 7 days at the Perth Royal Show, EPW, featuring guest stars Maddie Wahlberg, Vance Adams, Nick Golfus. It's huge. If you're going to the Royal Show, definitely make sure you check out the Grapps, buy some shirts, cheer the good guys, boo the bad guys. You know what we're about here. We're all about getting out and supporting local wrestling. And if you want to support us and what we do, you can do that for now, at least at patreon.com/theb+. You can also check out our sponsors. That's always a big help as well. And you can find me on social media. I am at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. We collectively are the B+ Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit the B+ Wrestling everywhere else. Like, share, subscribe, 5-star review if you like what we do. And thank you so much for listening.